Hello, Honors Chemistry. Today we are going to be doing the Evidence of Chemical Change lab. To start us off, I want to read to you the introduction on the lab. So one way of knowing that a chemical change has occurred is to observe that the properties of the product are different from those of the reactants. The new product can then become a reactant in another chemical reaction. In this experiment, you will observe a sequence of changes that occur when a solution that begins as copper 2 nitrate is treated with a series of different reactants. All of the reactions will take place in the same test tube, right here. At each step, you will look for evidence that a new substance is formed as a result of a chemical change. You will also observe heat changes and relate them to chemical reactions. So, to get us started here, right, I'll go through the steps. We have our water bath heating. We're going to use that a little bit later. And I'm going to start by adding a little bit of 1 molar copper 2 nitrate to this test tube. You'll see here that the copper 2 nitrate solution is a nice blue color. A little crusty. It's a little bit too much, but that's okay. Our next step, I'm going to add another solution. The next solution I'm going to add is sodium hydroxide. Right? And then I'm going to mix the solutions with a stirring rod. Right? I'm going to rinse the stirring rod into the test tube. And I'm going to touch the bottom of the test tube to see if any heat has been released. Right? The copper-containing product of this reaction will be copper 2 hydroxide, and the other product will be sodium nitrate. So let's give that a shot. With a pipette, maybe be a little neater. So I'll stir it with a stir rod. Rinse the stir on really quick with a bottle of water. You can feel bottom of the test tube. Feels a little cool. Not. Oh, no, it's okay. So there's our first reaction, right? On your own sheet of paper, I would like you to write reaction number 1, and then using what I have described so far in the video, write the chemical reaction in formulas and balance it, please. For the second reaction, we're going to place this test tube into our hot water bath, right? And we're going to observe. And you'll notice that some of the substance in the beaker is turning black. So as we heat the test tube, we are making new products, and the products of this reaction are copper 2 oxide, which is the black substance, and water. I'm going to add a little bit more
You want to remove that from
Oh.
the, oh, add a little more, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, add a little more sodium hydroxide to make sure we get a complete reaction. Might want to try stirring that.
I'm gonna give it a little rinse.
Notice Mr. Huser's amazing lab technique.
Alright, so that is our second reaction, right? The formation of the copper 2 oxide and water. Again, on your own sheet of paper, you're going to write reaction 2 and give me the balanced chemical reaction for that second reaction on the test tube. I'm now going to remove the test tube from the hot water. I forgot my test tube tongs, so I'm going to do not good, not good lab procedure and grab it with some paper towel so I don't burn myself. Put it back in our test tube holder. We want to allow this to cool for a little bit, right? And then I'm going to add some hydrochloric acid to the test tube to cause our next reaction. Our pipette again. So this is our solution of hydrochloric acid. I'm adding it to the copper 2 oxide and water, and the result of this reaction is going to be copper 2 chloride and water. Do another squirt here.
Pardon the interruption, but if you hear any bells or whistles from the fire alarm, please disregard as they are called through the system. Thank you.
Mix this, see if I've added enough of the acid. Did not. Add a little bit more acid here. There we go. And so now you can start to see some observations of chemical change there. You'll notice the black color is going away, and I'm trying to make sure the reaction is complete by getting all of that black away. I'll rinse it with some distilled water again. So again, you can see our reaction looks like still is happening a little bit. And again, the products of this reaction are copper 2 chloride and water. For the next portion of the experiment, we are going to take a strip of aluminum wire here and add that into the test tube. And again, we'll continue to make observations of the chemical change for our next reaction. So immediately you should be able to see some observations on that wire. Think about what's happening to the wire. Look at what's happening to the solution. The other thing I want to check here is as I'm touching the test tube, it's actually quite warm, right? So this reaction is giving off quite a bit of heat. Should tell you in this reaction we started with the copper 2 chloride and the water in the solution, and then I added the aluminum wire, and the products here are copper, right, and the aluminum chloride. Right? And so I'm going to pull the strip out just to show you the copper a little bit better. Right? You can see the copper atoms forming on the wire. Right? And then if I dip that back into our test tube, we also have another reaction happening in our test tube, and that would be the aluminum wire reacting with the leftover hydrochloric acid from the previous step. Right? And the products from that reaction would be hydrogen gas, as you can see the bubbles there, and aluminum chloride in the solution. So that wraps up this experiment. Okay? As we went through that procedure, you got to see several signs of chemical change.
Watch the color of the
that's
blue solution to see what's happening to the intensity of the color.
Good note, Mrs. Barron, thank you.
Like, is it fading? Is it becoming lighter? Is it getting darker? Also note that you have the hydrogen gas bubbles forming. I don't know if Mr. Huser mentioned that. So you can note that the color is faded pretty substantially, and then if we take the wire out, oops, okay. So the wire, that's all copper, and if you notice, it has a slight red color. So the blue copper ions that were in the solution have gained electrons, and they've turned into copper atoms, and now they are just pure copper. So a lot of chemistry in one test tube.